Welcome to Veteran State of Mind. I'm glad to have you guys back in with us. As those of you who are regular listeners know, we have kind of two formats over here at Veteran State of Mind Network. We have the War Story podcast, like we had with on the last episode with our guest Steve Brown. Thanks for everyone who got in touch about that episode. Let us know that you enjoyed it. And then we also have Veteran State of Mind, where we talk about people's kind of lives after the service, because believe it or not, there is more to life than being a soldier, more to life than being a veteran. And I think maybe the longer you get out, the more you kind of realize that. And that's what we kind of want to do on these Veteran State of Minds is, you know, obviously our service will always inform the rest of our lives. It would be impossible for it not to. But it's good to look away from war at sometimes and see what comes after. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. We've got an absolutely cracking guest on. I'm going to let her tell you in her own words who she is. But she's a friend of mine, as she's a friend of the show's. She's done some absolutely massive podcasts like the Jordan Peterson podcast, Trigonometry. And now she's on the biggest podcast of them all, Veteran State of Mind. And if you want to support the podcast, then just tell a friend. That's all we ask. Don't have to give us any money. We don't need anything like that from you. We definitely don't need no nudes, nothing like that. All we need is you to tell a friend. If you can bring a friend for every episode that you enjoy, help us to share the podcast. If you're listening and you come back every week, then there must be a good reason behind it. So if you enjoy the show, please share the show. All right, without further ado, please give a very warm welcome to Kelsi Sheren. Kelsi, welcome to the podcast, mate. It's been well overdue. It's great to see you.
Well overdue. I know. Thanks for having me back, man. It's been a minute. I didn't even know what you were doing with your life there for a little bit.
That makes two of us. I don't know if you ever have a social media break, but it's interesting because most people just assume that you're dead.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what happens. I assumed maybe you were just dead.
Yeah, maybe. No, here I am in the flesh. And yeah, basically it's just been, well, there's a couple of reasons for it, to be honest. One of them is, like, I used to feel like Instagram was the social media for good-looking people, maybe people with a nice bum that they want to put on a camera, you know? And I felt like it used to be, like, all jokes aside, quite a positive platform. And now I feel like it's just Twitter with photos.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong on that. I also think it's, I used to think it was a place of positivity until you start realizing that if you do better than those friends around you, they stop liking and engaging with your shit.
Well, they might not even see your shit. That's the problem.
Well, they do.
All right.
I watch them in the stories.
Oh, in the stories.
I'm a creep, son.
I found out now that I went on my feed the other day. So I haven't been on. So I haven't been on. Literally have. So I got Instagram on like an old burner phone, right? So I literally haven't even had that phone because I did a trip to the States. So I haven't even had Instagram on anything around me, right? And I came back and within like a minute on the phone, I'd seen multiple soldiers dying in Ukraine. You know, I'd seen all kinds of stuff that was just super, like me and Peter were just talking about that, producer Peter for the listeners. I mean, I know you're the same kind of way. It's like, I feel like most things are in the middle, right? If you've got a position that's all the way over the right, I think you're probably wrong. And if you've got a position that's all the way on the left, you're probably wrong. You know, most things are little bits of everything. I was looking, I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this is not something I'm going to look back on my deathbed and go, I'm glad I had that 5 kind of minutes scroll and stuff. But then on the other hand, sometimes it is the best way, especially when we've got international friends and stuff. It can be like a good way of keeping up with people. So I kind of feel like maybe the way to go is just I think I might have to just start like a new account and just have like really kind of small number of people on there. Do you do anything like that? Or actually, we can't tell the people that come looking for you.
No, it's good. I do, though. I try to curate the hell out of my page because I think what has happened for me is for a long time when I was trying to, you know, do something, be somebody, whatever you want to call it, I would start to follow the people I thought that I needed to be following rather than the stuff that made me feel good. And the more and more I've gone down that path of coaching and working in mindset and really watching how everything affects me or either my clients is I've gotten really hyper specific about what I allow in my space. And that means what I see, what I scroll to, who I'm around, what I eat, what I listen to, podcast, music, you name it. I've really curated the living hell out of my life so that when I go on social media, I don't want to punch somebody in the face every 3 seconds.
Yeah. And that's the worst bit about it because you don't get to punch them.
I just want to so hard though.
What about an app, right? where you sign up and, no one reads the terms and conditions. And basically, if you say some shit, someone is allowed to press a button that electrocutes you, like on the other end. Like, because unfortunately, like there may come a day where Elon Musk figures out how to put a fist in a phone, which we got a lot of parachute regiment listening. I'm sure they're probably thinking that would be a lot of fun. No, I'm not talking about what you guys are thinking about using it for. I'm talking about, just being out of touch. Or I've had another idea. If someone wants to make this app, I'm all for it. It's called Juul, and it's social media, but in the terms and conditions, you agree to an old school musket with like an old school Juul musket thing, where you have to turn backs to each other and walk away and then turn around and fire the muskets. So, I mean, because we can't do it with modern pistols because they're a bit too kind of accurate and stuff. The muskets, especially because people aren't trained on them, I feel like most of the times it just clear people's heads.
God, I missed you, man.
This is what I've been working on, everyone. I have this new app coming out. So, look, let's just give people, we talked about this, and I feel you on this. Like, I said, just so people know, obviously, we've got the two kind of different episodes going now. I said, Kelsi, do you want to do War Story and Veteran State of Mind? She said, Veteran State of Mind. And I get that, because it gets to a point where you just don't want to talk about stuff anymore. Not necessarily because it's too, like, to bring stuff up, but just because it's like, you've told it, you've done the book, you've put it out there. It's now like kind of like you just like, I want to talk about other stuff, new part of the life.
Well, and that was funny so when I went to London and you didn't visit me in December.
I was right. I was writing the D-Day book. Sorry.
Nope. Try again. So when I was in London and I was doing trigonometry, they asked me, I was like, have you guys read the book? And they're like, no. And I was like, okay, cool. So what do you want to talk about? And they're like, well, we want to talk about the book a little bit. And I was like, okay, we'll talk about it. We'll kind of skim through it. So we did. And then we got into like a real world topics. And I think for me, what I've realized, I've gone through this strange, people call it strange. I call it awakening. You call it fucking red pill. Call it whatever word sits well with you and makes your feelies feel good on the other side of the screen. I've just kind of gone through this period of my life where I realized that for a long time, I was putting one foot in the past while trying to put both feet in the future. And I was allowing that to hold me back. And I really realized at a moment there that I could not do that anymore if I wanted to be who I say I am and do the things I say I'm doing. It was more of like bricks held to my feet. It felt like it's not that like I don't regret, like they asked me, like Constantine was like, do you regret anything you've done? I'm like, absolutely not, because I wouldn't be who I am, where I am and doing what I'm doing if I didn't. That being said, I don't have to continue to live in that space, and I don't have to continue to recite the same war stories and do the same things only to be hyper criticized online by a bunch of people that have no idea what they're talking about. So I don't feel it's necessary to go through the most traumatic events of my life and those that surrounded me in that moment to then only be, told I was never there and didn't do the things I did. It's just not worth my fucking time. And my time is worth a lot of goddamn money now. And I know that. And so I don't put energy into things that are not only my past, but things that I can't change, couldn't go back and fix, that whole survivor's guilt of woulda, coulda, shoulda. I don't live in that space anymore. Right. So I spend a lot of my time using what happened to me as the stepping stool to who I am now and what I do to help people and what I do to speak and what I do to help change perception and help people heal from the stuff that happened. Like I was just telling Peter there when we were getting ready to do this, he's like, oh, how you doing? Let's just, get some audio. Man, I just got off a phone call with a consult call with a United States veteran. Holy shit, Jez. Like, I'm just trying to shake it off. Like, I'm going to process this in real time if you're cool with it.
Of course.
This guy's telling me some really harsh stuff, man. He did some gnarly stuff in the service and he's this dad with 2 kids. And man, he got on the call and I was just like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, we don't understand what we've asked people to do and how to live with it. And we've never shown them how to live with it. This guy had dropped more bombs on people than I can count. He's got a confirmed kill sheet from being artillery that is just disgustingly long. And that's the job we did. And I get it. But nobody's teaching these guys to come back and bear with the weight of what they've done, especially if you understand the reality of how much we lost that war. And people don't like that. I learned in the comments on Trig how much people think we actually won that war, which is hysterical to me. It's disgusting. So they think that it's unacceptable to say that we lost that war when it's blatantly obvious that we did. And not only did we lose the war, we have a trail of suicides behind it that's so long and so traumatic and just growing astronomically. And we have people doing panels that are talking about, you've got a couple people in America doing panels that are talking about suicide. And some of these guys know what they're talking about. And some of them are just out to lunch. And the thing that drives me nuts is we have people that need fucking help, man. They need to know how to handle this stuff. They need to know how to move through the guilt of dropping bombs time after time after time, deployment after deployment after deployment. And we don't give them any tools to do so. We say, take the pills, hang out with your buddies and drink a bunch of beer and you'll be all right. Let's talk about war stories. There's a place to talk about war stories. I'll sit down with you off camera and we'll shoot the shit on any of it. But the difference is we have to show these guys that you can move forward. We have to show them that it was a part of your life. It's not all of your life. It's not who you are and it's not where you're going. It's what you did, but it's not all of you. And that is the most heartbreaking thing, to see a father who can't leave because his ex-wife took his kids and used his PTSD against him. So he can't see his kids and he can't leave. And now he has to deal with the weight of everything he's done with no one around him to help him do it. And that to me is what drives me nuts. Is we talk about war stories and we say that we should sit around at the Legions and drink our faces stupid, but we don't give anybody any goddamn tool on how to handle it. And I'm really sick and tired of it. And when people say, Kelsi, well, there's more than 44 people a day that kill themselves alone in America, we're not even talking about the British stats. We're not talking about the Canadian stats. We're not talking about the Australians. We're not talking about any of the other NATO members because we're so damn distracted on putting ourselves in so many more wars that none of us need to be involved in. But yet we're doing it again and again and again and not learning anything. And it's our young youth that are having to pay the price, who turn out to be the next generation of men who don't cry, who don't deal with their emotions, and then drink themselves stupid and then kill themselves. And I'm over it. Sorry, I'm over it. There is a better way to do this, man. And we're just not doing it.
How many people, I don't know if you've ever come across this, I've always wondered this, like, out of the people that do kind of go all the way and take their own lives, how many of those involve people who are sober compared to those who are involved in drink and drugs? And I met them. People probably know Chester Bennington, Linkin Park lead singer. So I met the producer who'd made those albums once, and it was only a few weeks after Chester's death. And we were talking, and he basically said to me, he was like, he'd kind of rebuilt his life to be sober and because that kept him out of the darkest places. And then he had not a drink one day, the routine fell away. He got back into the old bad routine and that was enough. And I wonder, not just with veterans, because obviously this is something that affects everybody. And I know for a fact that a lot of the ones I hear about do involve people who have maybe been out doing coke or whatever for days at a time, and then they get to those dark places. Do you have any idea of or have you heard anecdotally, like, what kind of, numbers that is? Is it quite common that that's the case?
I don't know any numbers off the top of my head in terms of the breakdown of individuals who have been, say, suicide plus, drugs and alcohol in their system at the same time. But I think the bigger picture we need to look at isn't the street drugs and alcohol. It's the pharmaceutical intervention that causes people to become radically numb and disassociative. And it causes them to feel like they're never going to get better, and it holds them in place. Like, we understand now in this day and age, antidepressants and SSRIs are borderline useless when we look at how much more physical fitness can be effective versus taking an SSRI. We also give this false idea that SSRIs are going to actually give you serotonin when it doesn't. Right? They take the serotonin that you currently have, maybe it's a very minimal amount, and then it rations it across. And so the other thing we don't seem to get through to people is that 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut health, meaning what you put in your face is going to radically affect your mental health. And we have not focused on that. We have not got people to understand that if you eat processed foods, you eat unhealthy foods, you put high inflammatory things like beer into your gut, It's going to cause inflammation in the brain and the body. And inflammation is inflammation's a killer. We understand that. But from a depressive state, if you're constantly feeling sick and ill, you're feeling inflamed, your joints are going to hurt, which means you're going to move less, which means you're not going to get the same hit of dopamine because of the movement. So then you get into this pattern of behavior, right? And then if you take that, for example, you were a great example. If you take that and you get on your phone and the first thing you see is a bunch of people dying and you're being triggered by the same things, but just in a different country with a different uniform, with another suicide on top of it, that stuff is heavy and dark. So I think it's not just like the drugs and alcohol. I think it's a combination of the situations we're seeing. We're seeing terrible diets, especially in North America. In America in particular, we're seeing crazy amounts of obesity, right? Now that can come from childhood trauma, that comes from attachment, that comes from coping mechanisms that are food. I get it. That's not to say that, people are just fat because they're fat. America has set their diet up for people to fail. They've told people that cornflakes are healthier than boneless, skinless chicken breast or a piece of grass-fed meat. They've told people that orange juice is better than water. So I understand that you don't know what you don't know until you know it. But the excuse that, to me, we're getting to a point with technology where that is just an excuse. You have everything at your fingertips. It doesn't matter how poor you are. You can walk into a library, you can get on a computer, you can read a book. So the idea that we are telling people, well, they just didn't know. Okay, but now there's a concept in coaching, and it's really simple. Awareness is the finish line. If I make you aware and then you still choose not to change the behavior, that is a choice. It's about being conscious in your actions. If you are somebody who lives in the subconscious and wakes up and goes to work and comes back and goes to bed and wakes up and goes to work and come back and go to bed, you're stuck in this pattern. You need to be shook out of the pattern. Once you've got somebody's attention and they're now aware of the behaviors and the pattern and they still do nothing to change it, that's not on us. If we've given you the tools and you're not taking action for whatever the reason, I get it. It's hard. And you have to get uncomfortable, but how badly do you want the life you say you want? Because people get on social media and scream all day, I'm doing this, I'm waking up, I'm working out, I'm doing, do. Okay, but how's your family life? Does your wife feel like she's being neglected? Do your children feel like they're being seen? Are you at their activities? Or are you just traveling around the world doing whatever it is you think you want to be doing? Like, my point is, when we have these veterans, we have first responders, when we have anybody transitioning out of any sort of job in their life into something else, if they don't have purpose, they don't have community, they don't have stability in family, something's going to fall off. That's why they call people like me. Because I can point out your gaps, because it's easier for me to see because I'm pulled back and you're right here. So if you're hyper close to something, how are you supposed to see the effects? It's no different if you were to take I love this. If you were to take let's get political. If you were to take a Biden rally versus a Trump rally, if you look up real close, Biden looks like he's killing. Pull back, what do you see? Empty seats, right? So it's like you can make anything look good, but is the reality matching that? And the other thing is, man, we are the stories we tell ourselves. We understand that. Meaning, if you are listening to shitty things, eating shitty things, and everywhere you go, everyone around you is negative and telling you that the world is falling, guess what your reality is going to look like? The world is going to fall. But if you change up what you're listening to and the stories that you tell yourself, the rest of it can change. But we have a culture that has been cultivated around me, victim mentality. That comes into our veteran space as well. We become the labels they give us. For 10 years, I never introduced myself as a combat veteran or, a CEO or anything. It was, hi, I'm Kelsi. I have PTSD. Oof. We become what we say. And you're only going to change when you start to change what you tell yourself. So I don't introduce myself as, hi, I'm Kelsi Sheren. I'm a combat veteran. I had PTSD and a traumatic brain injury. It's, hey, I'm Kelsi Sheren. I'm a coach. I'm a podcaster. I'm a CEO. I am my mother. I am a wife. I'm a community member, and I will show up for you. Not once do I go, hi, I'm Kelsi Sheren. I'm a combat veteran, and I had post-traumatic stress disorder, and I got injured in Afghanistan. Why? Because that's not who I am anymore. It's something that happened to me. But I had to change the conversation I was having with myself. How long do I want to live in that victim mentality? How long do I want to live that label? Do I want to do it the rest of my life? Do I want to be the mother that is only the person that surrounds herself with people that are suffering from PTSD? Or do I want to start surrounding myself with people who I want to become, the fucking greats of the world? You have to be willing to pull the blindfold off and go, I'm not doing this anymore. Just because they said I was this does not make it so. You have to look at the receipts in front of you and the evidence that is presenting to you. If you're not eating right, stop complaining that you're not feeling good. If you're not moving, stop complaining that you're gaining weight. If you're not feeling good when you're on social media, change up your algorithm. Stop watching the news. If you're not a part of a community because it feels uncertain or uneven or it feels just not good, start involving yourself to see if that's the truth, or is it just the story you're telling yourself? These things all come down to our perceptions of reality, and our reality can be radically shifted by how we talk, but we just don't do it.
I want to come back to a couple of things before I forget. You know, you mentioned when you went on that trigonometry, and the comments, people were saying that they thought that we'd kind of won the war. And you see, like, you know, maybe that probably influences a lot of people when they think that war is the answer now for stuff. Do you think that maybe that is a part of what does get people kind of down? As like, if you've been through a conflict and you know what it costs, not just to your own country, but to the civilians who live there. I mean, we all saw how Afghanistan ended, what state it's in now. And then you look and just realize that people are fucking oblivious, haven't learned anything. And then another one starts and you just, because you've seen it, now you're like, so, you know, you might have seen Afghan kids or whatever, but then you know what's in store for this, whatever, fucking pick a country. Say what you want about the First World War, the Second World War, or whatever like that. There was the idea after the First World War that it was the war to end all wars. And there might have been some comfort in that, thinking we went through the most horrific stuff that's imaginable, but at least it was the war to end all wars. And then after the Second World War, you can say, you know, we went through everything that we went through, but at least the concentration camps are closed, and at least there's stability in these other places, and at least our own country isn't under threat of invasion anymore. And then when you look at what people have been through now, it's like, well, what's actually to show for it? It's back to how it was, maybe worse in some respects, and we're about to go and do it somewhere else, or someone else is doing it somewhere else, and we're trying to get involved. And it's just that, seeing that kind of futility. You know, like, you can take what you've said about a human being and an individual not being able to see its actions because it's close up. Well, you can say the same thing for a country, right? You can look at the country now and go, oh, you know, that awareness is the finish line. It's like, well, where's the awareness? Do exactly the same thing again.
Because they're not aware.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like, but for a veteran who is aware, because you've seen it, you're looking at it going like, what the fuck? We're all here. We're telling you what it's like. You've seen it on the fucking TV. You saw, like, I couldn't believe how quickly people went from, isn't this like collapse of Kabul terrible? Oh, isn't this awful? Straight to, oh, a war with Russia. Yeah, let's go. I'm like, literally months, a few months. Now, I'm not saying you can, I know, again, I'm kind of in the middle with a lot of these things, but the actual cheer, like, not even oh God, this is terrible, but maybe we have to do it. Like cheerleading. Yeah, cheerleading for another fucking war. Here we go. And I think maybe seeing that's got to be quite hard. I saw it when I was doing not to try and turn this into an advert, but those World War II vets, you know, every single one of them, you know, at the end of the interviews, they're all, war is terrible, stay away from war, do everything you can do for war. And I do think that maybe, like, if you look at like a chart, it's not that there haven't been any wars, but I do think that since that generation have obviously mostly passed away now, I do think that institutional knowledge, if you will, of how terrible war is has gone. And now all of a sudden people like, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like people are a lot more fucking war happy than they were 10 years ago.
I know a lot more people are delusional and captured. A lot more people don't understand the words they're saying. And the difference is now we have a society that has grown up, and we have told that society that words are violence. And we've told that society that You can just go bomb people and there's no repercussions. It won't touch you because it's not here. We've also told a society that war is the answer to everything. I mean, look at our age group and generation, okay? You had 9/11, then you had the economic collapse in 2008, then you had can you imagine if we had cameras, just digress for a second, can you imagine if we actually had GoPros in Fallujah?
Yeah, right.
Right? Okay. So, we have war footage, but like there's been some battles that if we had footage of, we would not be seen as the winners here. I guess my point I'm trying to say is we have a generation of people who've only known war, right? Well, that's it. Well, think about it for a second, right? You've got 9/11, then you've got Iraq, then you've got Afghanistan, then you've got Syria, now you've got Ukraine, then you've got Russia, then you've got Israel, now you've got Palestine, now you've got fucking Iran involved. And then, I mean, when's it stop? We got Taiwan about to pop with China. You got North Korea threatening to bomb into South Korea. Then you've got clandestine services all over the Middle East still. Everyone's pretending like we're not in the Middle East, which is comical at best. So, I guess my point is like, what do you expect when you raise an entire generation on war?
Yeah, it's a great point. And like, that's only going to get worse now that, like you said, the public knew. But like you said, now you've got people who are just, when I was 18, back in the days of the windmills and everything like that, you had to go out if you want to find a video of someone dying, you had to go out your way and fucking find it, right?
Oh my God, did you ever?
Well, I never myself, but it was one of those ones where like they would float around in the army and stuff like that, right? And to be honest, it never sat well with me because I've always felt there's something incredibly cowardly with watching, particularly when it comes to someone being executed. I feel like it's an incredibly cowardly thing to do, to watch that. You're not going to learn anything out of it. And you're taking some kind of thrill out of someone dying. And I'm thinking a lot of these people wouldn't even go out and fucking pluck and fucking gut chicken. And I think that they'll watch that. And you can say that there's some merit to watching, for instance, when there's videos coming out of Syria of actual combat, you could at least make an argument of there's some merit in seeing combat, and you might pick up a lesson from it. You might learn, oh, that guy was standing behind the wall and that wall didn't fucking save him. Or so, there might be something. When you're just watching someone on their knees getting killed, I just think you're a fucking coward. And I also think that a lot of young people doing that are going to regret it as they get older, particularly if they have their own kids, because they're going to realize that this person was someone's kid. So if you are someone that's doing that now, I'd say you might not realize it now, but you probably feel a lot better in 20 years about yourself. Doesn't matter what my opinion is. It'll be your opinion of yourself that matters. And I do think that that's kind of become a problem. But I also just think in general, the world is not, I mean, it sounds ridiculous because obviously throughout history, people are fucking being shitty to each other, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying that's any different, but I do feel like things have changed in the sense that I do feel like we kind of maybe grew up in a nice sweet spot where there was still the institutional knowledge around about how terrible war is and how much we needed to avoid it wherever possible. But also and I don't know what this is like in Canada, you have to tell me, and I do think this is better in the UK than it is in the US by a fucking mile. The ability to, agree to disagree. Right, there's an election coming up. I'd rather lower taxes. My friend would rather higher taxes. Okay, I'm sure you've got your reasons. I've got mine. Let's go and have a pint. Now, I do think that is, I'm lucky in America as a lot of my friends are veterans. And I think because of, the great melting pot that the military is, for all its faults of the military, it's still one of the best places. I think it's one of the least racist places, well, I'm not going to speak on that one because I don't really have that much experience. But you're bros, and it doesn't matter where you're from or anything like that, they're your bros. And I think that's kind of great. But when I get outside that group, I hear people now, it's going to be disaster if Biden gets in. It's going to be disaster if Trump gets in. Let me tell you, it's going to be shit whoever gets in because that's politics. And it's also probably not going to be as big a disaster as you think it is. But the disaster comes from thinking that the other side's going to cause a disaster, and you do, and you get further apart and further apart and further apart until you can't agree on fucking anything because your pride won't let you, your ego won't let you. And that can be a disaster. But I don't think that an individual person like that can be. It's only when people convince themselves that the other side has no merit to what they're saying, and the other side convinces themselves. And that's ridiculous. Like, you know, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Like I said, at the end of the day, when it comes to either of them and either of the political parties in America, I think both of them are going to make things worse for the average person because that's what politicians tend to do. Has this been something that you found at home? Because obviously you're up in Canada, which is, you're, to use that analogy, Canada is the apartment above the meth lab that is America. But that being said, things have gone fucking bonkers where you live in the last few years.
Yeah, it's gotten out of control. It's weird because a lot of people I'll get on shows and people will be like, are you a Trump or a Biden? I said, I'm a fucking Canadian. Like, I don't understand why my opinion on your politics matters. And they want to be able to put me in a bucket. And that's really what it comes down to. They want to be able to put me in a bucket to be able to say, like, I had a head of a major organization recently asked me that we're partnered with and was like, oh, are you a Trumper? And I said, my opinion on this doesn't matter. Like, it's the same thing where it's like, if somebody is talking shit about someone, and I happen to be the brunt of it, your opinion of me doesn't matter. I don't care. It's none of my business. It doesn't affect me. It's not going to change what I'm doing. It's not going to change how I view anything. That's just your opinion of me. Everyone has opinions and has views on everything. I'm not going to sit there and try to argue and change them. It's an obnoxious waste of time. But what we've done in North America is we've allowed, and I say we as citizens, because this is what it's come down to. We've allowed the media, we've allowed the governments to separate us. We've allowed them to drive the divide, and we've been complicit in that action. And people want to blame Trump or Biden or Trudeau or Pierre and say, oh, well, that's because that guy did that thing. You are devoiding yourself of responsibility the second you blame somebody else. You are your own person. You have your own thoughts, your own choices. You have your own free will. That's arguable. But you have that. For the most part, you do, which means you make the decision to be divided. You make the decision to say, I'm not talking to that person who likes Biden or that person who likes Trump. You make that decision. So this division, sure, it has been started up here, but shit rolls downhill. And if you choose to participate, then you're just as complicit. The difference is people would come to me and say, excuse me, but Kelsi, Biden's got the border wide open. Yeah, that's never good. But anybody can see that. That doesn't have to be a Biden thing to go, this is a problem. You're being invaded. Like, that's not in my opinion, that's not a Biden problem. That's hey, you guys have set your country up like this for a reason. And you, as the voter, vote. You make the decisions. You make the choices. If you're not voting accordingly, that has nothing to do with the fact that the border's still open. The border's still open. You're still allowing it. You as citizens have the right to your government and to make those choices and hold their feet to the fire. But no one does. Everyone says, oh, but they do. No, you complain on social media into a screen to a bunch of other people that are captured that believe what you believe. That's not making change. You want to make change, call your MPs. You want to make change, go to parliament. You want to make change, get in the ring. Okay, so let's be example. Look at Morgan Luttrell, Marcus Luttrell's brother. He's in the Senate in the United States doing everything he can to make change. Eli. There's a few other major people in the United States who said enough of this. You can only stand on the sidelines for so long. If you want something to change, get up and do something about it. But sitting here on your screens and complaining is not helping anyone. It's just causing other people to be more stressed and more anxious and think that the world is falling. Things are bad, for sure. We can all see that. But in Canada, we're dealing with something very different. We're not dealing with a Trump or a Biden situation. We're dealing with a bought government, which CSIS has come out and been able to prove. We're dealing with ideological capture and financial capture and corruption from the CCP in Canada, which has been proven by CSIS. We're dealing with the fall of a country into absolute delusion by changing our rights. We can't seem to protest without having our bank accounts taken and doxxed. We have Bill C-11. You guys can't see my stuff. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself why for a second. And this isn't to be an asshole. Let's be honest with ourselves for a second. I've been very fortunate to do some of the biggest shows in the world on a pretty regular, ongoing basis. Look at my YouTube. Look at it. See what happens.
So what were you saying? Are you saying, so you're talking about like traffic kind of throttling?
Traffic throttle. We have it. It's called the CRTC and it's called Bill C-11. The United States are calling it a TikTok bill. Okay. We already have it. It's called Bill C-11. It literally monitors and stops Canadian content from leaving. There's only a few countries in the world that have this sort of iron curtain on the internet censorship waves. Russia, North Korea, China, and Canada.
Oh shit. That is a fucking list.
But that's my point to you is like, I'm not talking Trudeau and I'm not talking Pierre. You're not hearing me say their names and blaming one of them. I'm saying we as a country, as its citizens, have allowed fuckery for so long, and now look where we are. You got to stop turning around and blaming everyone else for your problems and start taking accountability. If you want change, start in your community. If you want change, start within yourself. But stop blaming everybody else for the problems.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on today. What I would say is, I don't think government can be changed from within. I think it's like the idea of saying that you join the mafia and then you're going to get the mafia to change their ways. To me, like big government as what it is today is basically the biggest organized crime gang in the country.
1,000%.
I'm not saying they don't do any good. I'm not saying there's nothing good that comes of it. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is at the end of the day, you are dealing with something that is set up to protect itself. And, my hat's off to anyone that tries to go in there and change it. But you are fighting a battle that you're never going to win. But I totally agree with you. But what you can change is you can change yourself, first and foremost. You can change yourself. As Andy Frisella says, personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion. I totally believe in that because the more you're financially stable, the healthier you are, the happier you are, the more you can take care of people around you, the less you rely on government. And the less you rely on them, the less of a hold they have over you. And if everybody got to a point where they could look after themselves, then you wouldn't need a bigger government. And if you don't need the bigger government, then you don't get all the oppressive shit that comes with it. And then once, like you said, outside of that, it's community and stuff. So I totally get what you're saying. Like, I think you can hold two things at once. You can believe that a lot of what government does is like either criminal, evil, or like, I certainly don't believe there's a right to do it. I don't think anyone has the right on how to tell anybody else to live their lives if that is not violent against another person. If you want to be a murderer, I don't think you have the right to murder another person. Go murder yourself. There you go. You have the right to do that. But if you want to live your life, live your life. But once you start imposing it on other people, that's when I have a problem with it. People say, well, you think you have the answers to everything. It's like, no, I don't. And that's the whole point. It's like, I think I have some answers for myself, but I'm not going to go and force other people and say, right, this is your routine for the day. This is what you're going to do. I'll offer advice. I'm not going to turn up your house with the SWAT team and make you do it. All right, Jordan, welcome back to the podcast, mate. Last time you gave us a bit of an overview about what you and Hamilton Gold do in your company. Can you tell us, if you got someone coming to you looking for, say, an engagement ring, what are kind of some of the questions that people might have that you get most often?
Well, the ones that we get most from the military or other blue lights is how we're, maybe a bit suspicious of how we're able to be so much cheaper. And I think or at least offer the discount to the military. And really, it's just because we're not greedy. Like, I think everyone knows that the diamond and engagement ring industry is a bit of a rip-off. That's the first thing that interested me in this when I bought my wife's engagement ring. So we're not greedy. And actually, there's still plenty of margin left to make a bit of a profit, to make it a profitable business for us. The diamonds are the exact same kind of certifications that you get from the high street. So yeah, that's how, just not being greedy, I suppose.
All right, great answer, mate. So if anyone's looking for an engagement ring out there, I'm sure we have a lot of young, handsome people out there, probably got women flooding them with offers. Go down the show notes, check out the link to Hamilton Gold, and go and check out what they have to offer. All right, let's get back to the podcast. So let's look at your thing, mate, because obviously you have changed a lot over the years. I've seen it. It's been great to see. We got a long way to go. We both have. Everyone has. Everyone listening here has and that's the great thing. When it comes to improvement, you have an infinite capacity for it. I want to ask, is there a point? Because obviously these things aren't just like, you're not just like kind of flat here and then you have a moment and then it's all changed, right? There's a gradual thing. However, in that gradual thing, there's probably spikes. You know, like when you watch a movie, you know, the reason like movies kind of appeal to us all is because you can kind of use them as like a template for life a lot of the time. And there's usually a moment like a catalyst. And sometimes people might decide to change their life because they had a heart attack. And it's like, I don't want to die and not see my kids. I'm going to get in shape. Or someone might get divorced and they said like, oh, maybe I'm a fucking shit partner. I need to make a change. Sometimes they go the opposite way and double down, but let's just be on the positive side. What was a kind of catalyst moment for you?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I think it was a culmination of a lot of things. You know, I started my company in 2015 and, you know, when it started to catch fire and get attention, I thought maybe that's what I needed I just needed something else to focus on. I just needed, you know, a different purpose. And that's right. I needed a purpose and I needed a reason to get up every day. And that, you know, Brass and Unity gave me that for a very long time. And don't get me wrong, it still gives me that to an extent, but it's not my end all be all. You know, I'm not the company. And I realized that as I was kind of going through this healing process there for quite some time, there was a moment where I remember sitting in therapy going like, am I this thing that they keep telling me I am? And the first time that thought creeped in, I actually like suppressed it because of fear. Because if I'm not this thing that they say I am, what am I? That's a loaded question. Most of us don't know who we are. We don't know what we love. We don't know what we're passionate about. We don't know what sets our soul on fire. And because of that, we get stuck in the stagnant state because if you don't know who you are, then how are you supposed to move forward? If you don't know what you love, how are you supposed to make a decision on what you want to do for the rest of your life? So I think for me, that was a big, you know, once those thoughts started to come in, it started to change the way I view things. But then I started using psychedelics in end of 20, going into 21. And I'd never been the person who ever used them in high school or party. Like I just never used anything. I think I smoked a joint once or twice when I was in high school, but like, you know.
Naughty.
Naughty. Yeah, I know. But I was an athlete. So the part of the thing was like, it didn't resonate with me getting drunk on the weekends. Yeah, we would go party at I lived in the middle of nowhere at somebody's house on a farm, but I was not the person who, you know, got drunk every weekend. I was an athlete. Again, that was my identity. Then the service was my identity. Then the trauma and the PTSD was my identity. And then psychedelics came in and said, hey, you're none of those. And so when I started using psychedelics in a safe setting with an integration program properly, you know, when I started doing stuff with Heroic Hearts Project, I realized that I did not have to be these things everyone said I was. I could completely and radically change who I was, what I wanted to do, how I walked, talked, and looked at the world. And everybody has that capacity. And you don't even need psychedelics to do it. You need to be able to sit still and look inward long enough before you start scrolling on your phone again. And that means having mentors and coaches and leaders around you that can hold you in that space and hold you accountable. So because of that, psychedelics were like a catalyst point to the opening of my brain again. And then I did brain treatment, right? So that's what I realized was a lot of my decision-making or inability to make decisions, a lot of my governor, my frontal lobe was turned off due to traumatic brain injury that went undiagnosed for a very long time. So, well, let's look at what your frontal lobe does. It's your governor, man. It's your gas pedal. It's what makes decisions. It's what allows your emotional control. It's what allows a lot of your ability to get up and do these things. If it's not working, and it's not, you know, helping you to make choices, you're going to struggle. So when I did brain treatment in 2022, I went down to Texas because Canada wouldn't treat me. And Defenders of Freedom paid for me to go, which was an American organization. And I was the first combat female to go through the program. And so it was just a lot of guinea pig stuff, learning a lot of what I needed versus what male veterans needed from a TBI. Once we got that working, now we were cooking with gas because now we've got a lot of the main trauma stuff handled. We've got the brain functioning. We've got the gut health on point. We've got the internals dialed. But a lot of times what we do is we try to put the cart before the horse, right? So we know that 11 of the 13 symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder overlap with traumatic brain injury disorder. with traumatic brain injuries. So I even hate saying post-traumatic stress disorder because it's not a disorder, it's an injury. It's not a disorder. It's something you can heal from. And so I correct myself with that because verbiage matters. So TBI can be overlooked. And that is one of those biggest things that if you're not treating that, the PTS is going to get worse, right? So once we start looking at these things differently, I was able to start looking at myself differently. And then you couple that with an awakening with psychedelics and just this reality of, holy shit, I am the only thing holding me back. It's not, it's the programming of the government that said, you move when we say move, you do this when we say you do this, and you don't do anything until you're told otherwise. It was the need to have somebody telling me what to do next. And I learned that actually, no, I don't need to be directed. I'm a pretty fucking great leader if I just lean into myself and trust in my own self. And so once I started to do that, I realized, I know what I need. I need a community around me. I need support. I need affirmations from others. I need to feel seen. I need to feel heard. I need a purpose. And I need to do things not just for myself. When you start doing things for others, that's where the true happiness comes in. That's why I get on the phone with these veterans. That's why I do the things I do and I'm not paid. That's why I show up at events that I'm not paid to be there for. It's because I believe that other people need to see that you can walk through hell completely all the way through, get to the other side. But I also believe that now you have an obligation to turn around and bring a flashlight with you and start pulling others through. And so that's what I do now. So the biggest thing for me was realizing that I'm not the labels. And as soon as that started, it was like the pop of the first balloon. It was like, okay, we got one out of the way. Okay, what else am I capable of? What else have I been told that's a lie? And so, I think it all kind of started with the company back in 2015 when I was starting to get out of the suicidal ideation by giving myself a purpose. And then starting working with the charities, with the brand, and then starting to see that I could be a lot more than I was told I was. And then, started to just really take chances and risks. So I think the first time I ever did a keynote was a 45-minute keynote. And I had never done one before, and it was for a university. And
Can you just tell people what they're not familiar with Keynote?
So a Keynote speaker. So I got an opportunity to go speak at a college because they heard me on Lex Fridman. And they called and they were like, we want to have you come talk. It was ironically, you're going to laugh, Equity and Diversity and Inclusion Department that called. I know, it was great.
Like, you're speaking to.
Yeah, you know what you're talking to, right? So I did the talk anyway. But I got on that phone and I made it seem like I was the best speaker in the world. And not because I believed it yet, but because I know I could be. So I knew if I just put one foot in front of the other and I took a big jump and a big risk, I knew it would pay off. So I did it. And then after that, I did another one. Then after that, I did another one and another one and another one and another one until I got TED and I got Harvard and I started getting all of these. Because I actually know that if you want to take or make any sort of change in this world, it's going to get uncomfortable. You're going to feel like an imposter for a long time until all of a sudden you're going to have enough receipts in front of you to go, I am good at this. Period. Full stop. That's it. But you have to take the risk. You have to make the leap. And it's not going to happen by sitting there and saying, I am the injuries that they told me I was. It's going, I'm doing this not in spite of, but because of, I have the ability, because I learned how to show up. I learned how to believe in myself. I learned that if I am going to do something, I'm going to do it all the way. Every service member is like that I know, at least the ones that I know, right? If I'm going to do something, I'm going to go to the ends of the earth and I will die trying to get there. But the biggest problem is people see that word fear. Everything they want in their life is standing right behind it. But that fear stops them from doing anything great because they think one of two things. I'm not special forces. Why would they care? I was just conventional forces. Why would they care? I was just a woman in the service. Why would they care? I was just a small human that didn't do more than one deployment. Why would they care? Well, when you tell yourself those stories, you're never going to do anything great. You have to erase those from your fucking vocabulary and change them and reframe them. Yes, I only did one deployment, but it was a fucking banger and I served properly and I'm proud of that. Yes, I was a woman, but I was one of the only fucking females to do this job to start with. And I'm goddamn proud of that. Like, you have to start reframing all of these things. Sure, I wasn't a keynote speaker, but now I am. Sure, I didn't write books, but now I do. Sure, I didn't have podcasts. Now I do. Sure, I didn't run a company, but now I fucking do. So you have to decide, are you going to live in your past? Are you going to change what you're doing and become the things you deserve to be? Because all of us deserve to be great. We're just not all cut out for it. And you have to decide if you want to be one of those people, or you want to be one of those people who lives in their past, sits there and drinks beer and decides that it's too painful to move forward. I get it. Survivor guilt hurts every day. I miss my friends every day. But instead of lying in bed, while I know they're around me watching me going, are you fucking kidding me? This is what I died for? For you to lie in bed? No. You died so that I could get up, get it done, get moving forward, and show others that it was worth you even dying for in the first place. Because we sure as hell didn't win that war. So your life has to be worth something. So I'm going to get up, I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to do the things I never thought I was capable of. Because I have to. Because I cannot live in that anymore. And none of us should. Be proud of what you did. Yes, it sucks at some of the things we did, but you got to move forward. You can't live in the past anymore. So I just made a decision. Do I want to do this anymore? Or am I going to check out? It's like, no, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to go so goddamn big. None of you are going to see it coming.
I think it's a skill that we all have in life, right? There's the ability to actually have no fear. When we're younger, we have no fear. And we also have no off switch. And what I mean by that is, and obviously I've got to put a caveat on this because it'll still be on the internet and someone will say, what about someone that doesn't have legs? All right. There are exclusions to that. There are exclusions to what I'm about to say, internet. Generally speaking, human beings have legs. Generally speaking, human beings couldn't walk when they were little babies. And when you start to walk, you fall over, and then you fall over again, you fall over again, you fall over again, you fall over again. So every single person has already proved that they can do something they can do. If you haven't got legs, if you can talk, you've proved something that you couldn't do. Every single person has gone through that. And then I'm sure it's a combination of factors through life, the way that we do school, the way that we jump on people when they make a mistake. I'm sure like maybe there was a time when your mummy or your daddy shouted at you for not doing something or said that your painting was shit, which it probably was, honestly, you were a kid. But it gets to the point where people are like, oh, well, I tried it once and I was shit at it. Or, as you keep saying, and I totally agree with, you don't even try it. You play it out in your head and you fail. That is where the ability to do what you're doing now. And again, we all have this ability. We all dream. We're all capable of dreaming. We're all capable of imagining. Because we all imagine the worst case scenario most of the time. And I think that that is a fucking superpower within us, which we all have because we've had it. We've used it at some point in our life. You've proved the point that you have got it. But you lose it. It's like anything. It's fucking skill fade. You don't practice skill at arms for a while, you fucking shit. Or shitter. But it's still there. If you went, like anyone listening now who's a veteran, if you picked up whatever weapon you used to use, it might take you a couple of tries to pass a weapon handling test, but I guarantee you, you're a lot further along the line as someone who's never touched it before. And we all have that. And that ability to get back to it. And then the other thing I think that you kind of alluded to there and kind of said is that it's reps. You know, I bet if you look at that first keynote you did and look at where your keynotes are now, every single one, there's that thing. It's reps.
Yeah.
And I love the gym as an analogy for this because as anybody who's ever been at the gym knows, first time you go, it's fucking daunting. And like you said, it's a fear. It's like, oh, if I go to the gym, I'm not going to be able to lift this and I'm not going to know what I'm doing and people are going to judge me. One of the things I worked out when I was in a gym and I was lucky enough to have clients was that every single one of them was worried about the same thing. It's what are the people going to think about me? And what I realized one day was everyone in the gym, people think that everyone's looking at each other in the gym going, oh, he's shit at this, he's shit at that. And they're judging you. What's actually happened is everyone in that gym is thinking that person's looking at me thinking I'm shit. And the person you think's thinking that you're shit is actually thinking you're looking at them thinking they're shit. And it's everybody doing it. You know, and that gets the same as you're going on. It doesn't matter if you can end up benching a fucking whale. You'll still be worried about someone that can come in and do more. It doesn't go away. And I think that's okay is, again, this idea that, oh, like, well, it'll get to a point where I'm never worried or whatever. And no, that as far as I know, that point doesn't exist. You're always going to be worried. And then you might have a few months away from something. You might not do a keynote for a while. You might have a run where you're doing a bunch, you're going on tour, it's keynote, or whatever it is. Maybe it's like, I don't know, guys or girls going out and meeting other guys. You might get in a thing where you're in your rhythm and that fear goes down to almost nothing. But there's always a little bit of it there because it wouldn't be fun if there wasn't. It's just this disability. It keeps showing up day in, day out, and accepting the fact that, one, you can do it, but two, things will always scare you, and it should, because if they don't, then it's probably not fucking worth doing, because it means that you want what you're going after. So I think, like, we're lucky to live in a society that's incredibly comfortable, but you do have to go and look for things that make you afraid in one way or another. I'm not saying you fucking drive your car backwards down the motorway or something like that. I'm not condoning anything like that. But what I'm saying is you have to do something that makes you uncomfortable, because that is like in that space of discomfort. And I'm starting to sound like a fucking Tim Ferriss podcast or something here, but it's fucking true. You have to be uncomfortable to grow. You can't otherwise if you are comfortable. And that zone of discomfort is going to change as you progress. But it should always be there, because if it's not, it means that you're plateaued. And that could be plateauing in a relationship with your partner, plateauing in a relationship with your kids, plateauing in your work, whatever. So, feeling that bit of fear, feeling that bit of fucking hell, have I taken on a bit too much here? That's what you need to know that you're continuing to progress. And from my own experience, when I'm living in that sense of worry, like a bit of fear, a bit of doubt, I'm actually far more happy in the rest of my life. It's when you're living in that fucking comfortable zone. Like I've heard something once, I can't remember who says it, so I apologize. Might have been said by a million people. That you're either being productive or destructive. And I fully believe in that.
100%. I think most people, Jez, want everything, but they're not willing to work for it. They don't understand what it means to work for something. And the only way that you learn what that feels like is to get up and do it. But it requires belief in yourself, because no one else is going to believe in you until you've achieved it. And then everyone's going to say they did. I posted this, there's a page on Instagram. I think it's called like Rare Mentalities. I really like it because they post like these little just sayings, but they're ruthless. And, if I were to just post those on my own, people would be pissed at me. But one of them I posted the other day was like, people can call me whatever they want, but it was like, it's something like people are going to say they knew you were great all along, but once you achieved the thing. And then it's going to be the doubters that are the ones that are going to tell stories how they met you. So, I don't think people understand that when you're trying to do anything difficult in the world, there's going to be a million people who want to see you fail and are literally waiting and watching. Like I could pull up my phone right now and there are people that you and I both know that are waiting for the fall, and they're going to wait their entire fucking lives. Because the difference is I'm no longer giving anybody else power or agency over what I do in my life. And I don't believe anybody else should. We look for validation in people that don't think of us twice. We look for validation in community that only wants to see you fail. We look for validation in people who don't even have their own shit together, who look like they do on social media, but their families are falling apart, or they're going through a divorce, or they ignore their wives, or they drink themselves to sleep every night. And we put them on pedestals. The difference is I've been in the rooms with some of those people and I refuse to put anybody else on a pedestal because I know what realities look like and what delusion is shown. You can decide each and every day who you want to be and how you want to show up and what that looks like. And you can put that on social media, or you can show up each and every day in your real life that way and just happen to put it on social media. People are living their lives for clicks and for likes. And people are going to be like, yeah, but Kelsi, you're an influencer. Yeah, I have some products that I use because that's what I use in my daily life. Well, Kelsi, Instagram's a highlight reel. Yeah, my fucking life is a highlight reel because I choose for it to be. I don't need vacations. My life is a vacation. Some people will say it's insane. Kelsi, how do you manage so many things? I do it because I love them. I don't do them because I get paid. And I said this to a guest recently who's a world record holder for I think it's like the fastest 24-hour run on a treadmill and in the trail. It's like, this guy's nuts, right? He's a guy who works a normal job, but his name is Don Reichelt, and he is just a beast of a guy, right? Just a beast of a dude. He's not the guy who gets up at, 2 a.m. and gets after it, but he's the guy who's like, I go to a normal job and I get it done, and I love his perspective. But ultimately what it comes down to, right, is I don't want to do anything I don't want to do. So you will never, ever, ever beat someone who does it because of passion. You can always beat someone who does it for a paycheck. That's why people who do it for a paycheck burn out, but people who do it because they love it will go into the ends of the earth. That's why people in service will die for their friends, because they love what they do and they are willing to do what it takes to get to the end. But for some reason, when you get out of the service, we have lost that drive because we don't have the guy to the left and the right of us or the girl to the left or the right. Now we have to show up for ourselves. So what does that mean then, Jez? It means that when you don't want to, you have to get up and do the thing. It means that when you're an entrepreneur, if you don't do it, it's not getting done. It means that if you don't schedule, you don't edit, you don't post, you don't make clips, you don't go to the workout, you don't go to the grocery store, you don't do the fucking laundry, you don't pick up your kid, you don't have enough sex, you don't communicate enough with your spouse, it means it all falls on you. So instead of looking at it as this massive pressures that you've put yourself in, you look at the thing that is cultivating a goddamn diamond. And just how big do you want to be? Do you want to be the half carat, the quarter carat that you get at the mall? Or do you want to be the thing that you have to get private viewing for with a security team around you that if you literally walk around with that, someone's going to mug your ass? How big do you want to be? Because there is no limits. Yet for some reason, we put limits on ourselves. We tell ourselves, well, I can never be a New York Times bestseller. Why? Well, maybe I just self-publish. And I know more self-published authors that sell more books than the people on the New York Times bestsellers. Do you know why? Because they bet on themselves. And because they bet on themselves. And you know that. The same way, I walked away from 2 film deals. Now, why? They didn't align with me. Because they were going to make a movie about you. And do you think that that's not going to happen? It's probably going to happen later. Something that's more aligned with me, with the right people around me. You have to look at your life and go, how badly do I want the life I say I want? And what am I willing to sacrifice? And sacrifice doesn't mean blowing up your family and moving to the woods. It doesn't mean you stop working out. You stop caring about yourself. You stop drinking your water. You stop taking your vitamins. What does it look like for you? For me, it looks like boundaries, aggressive boundaries. It looks like time blocking. It looks like being serious about my health. It looks like putting my family first. Because guess what? My mentor told me this recently. And it hit like a ton of bricks. She goes, Kelsi, you can have all these people around you, but who's going to remember you when you're dead? Because it's not going to be those dudes. I bet you half of them won't even show up at your funeral. Most people won't even like the post when you die. So why do you care so much about what they think? You need to care about the people that are closest to you because those are the ones that you're impacting. That could be a small community. That could be your immediate family. That could be your church. That could be your school. That could be whatever you want it to be. The grass is not always greener. It is green where you fucking water it. You just have to be willing to do it. Most people think this stuff happens overnight. Son, I've been grinding on this since 2015. People are like, oh my God, where did you come from? I can't even believe where I have been doing this since 2015, Jez, the same way you've been writing since you got out, when you were writing, when you were in.
Right. I was going to say, you've been doing it for longer than that because like you said earlier, it's everything got you to that point, right? So it's one of the things I hate is the idea of overnight success because I think it fucks a lot of people up. Overnight success does not exist. It's just behind an overnight success is probably 10, 20, fucking 30, 40 years of work. And I wanted to, while we're on the subject as well, you're kind of saying something and I want to kind of hit this because it might be relevant to a lot of people listening because obviously, people think of veterans, think of combat veterans and stuff. And some people have had the opportunity to go and do it. And I do think it's an opportunity for a lot of us. But also, I was in the army, but I never deployed. Don't matter. So you're saying that you went through training, you did log runs where you fucking push yourself to the point of puking, you were able to show up for something day in, day out. You were able to show that you could lead, show that you could follow, all these kind of things. So I think that I just wanted to kind of hit that point of anybody listening. If you've done anything like that, there's two things. One is that you've already shown that you can go to some extreme limits. And the other thing as well is that you have begun that journey to whatever you want to be, because like there's so many fucking skills and things that are transferable from the military. And like you said, like in this kind of journey, this idea of people coming out of nowhere, it's like, you know, it's everybody's on that path at some point, unless you're not trying. Like that is literally the only reason you couldn't be on the path, is you're not putting any effort. As long as you're putting some effort in, you know, and it can be hard. Like I'm a big believer you can't fix everything at once. Like there's certain things that you can do that are going to have overlap to other areas, right? 100%. For instance, if you take care of your personal health, that'll have overlap into everything. It'll be good for your work, good for your relationships, good for your sex life, good for whatever. That'll fall over, right? So there is overlap. But, you know, there's also nothing wrong with picking an area and saying like, right, which you got to kind of look at it like, what domino for me to hit is going to start knocking the other dominoes down. And I do think that maybe that's a reason that a lot, because like if your life is, and I'm talking to someone whose life has been a shit show at a few different fucking points, including reasonably recently, and well, not super recently, but pretty recently. And when you look at it and you've got all kinds of fucking problems going on, it just be like, well, I don't even know where to fucking start, and it can be overwhelming. And that ability, and this exactly comes back to what you said earlier, sometimes at that point you need that person on the outside to go, right, I see it. What are all the issues? All right, start here. Start with this. We're going to work on this. You're going to get that to that. That's going to make you better than these. Then we're going to start hitting this one more. And, you know, and that's, I think, a lot of people, because I do think most people want to be better. I genuinely do. But they go, right, I'm going to be better. I'm going to start going to the gym every fucking day, and I'm going to stop going out, and I'm going to stop doing this. And they go, oh, and then it's like, fucking hell, this is really hard. Fuck it. I think people confuse like slow and steady kind of wins the race with like bare minimum effort. That doesn't mean what slow and steady means, right? It means steady effort.
Consistency. So I'll give you an example. I've had this with a few clients recently, and I was this way too. So I know that this works. You know, a lot of times we keep all this stuff in our head. Like you said, I got to stop drinking. I got to be better with my wife. I got to show up at the gym. I got to do better at work. I got to keep up with everyone else. No, you don't. What you need to do is you need to sit down with a piece of paper, and you need to make a line down in the center. And you're going to write down everything on the left-hand side of all the things that you want to change. And then you're going to pick one, and then you're going to put that on the right-hand side. And then you're going to go, okay, I'm going to start with my health. So what does that look like? So if I have all these things on the left-hand sides I want to do, we're going to pick the one that's going to have the biggest impact on everything, which is always going to be your health. Because your health is wealth. And without it, you have nothing to pour from. You can't be anything to anyone, can't get better at anything if you're always exhausted, not feeling well, sick, bloated, uncomfortable. Okay? So first we're going to look at, what do I eat? And how's that impacting me? Then we're going to look at, what do I watch? How does that make me feel afterwards? Then we're going to look at, what do I listen to? Do I feel angry? Do I feel sad? And then we're going to look at, how am I going to start showing up for myself and giving myself time? Well, I got 5 kids, Kelsi. I don't have time. Da, da, da. Make time. You have 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning. So before you get out of that bed, you're going to choose gratitude. And you're going to sit there and you're say, I'm grateful I woke up today. I love myself. I love my family. I know things are hard, but if I keep showing up, it's going to get better. And then you're going to keep working on that. And that's going to take you weeks and weeks and sometimes months. But that's okay. You're going to stick with one thing at a time, because that will naturally bleed over into the other things. And when you feel like you've got a handle on your health, you're going to grab that piece of paper again and you're going to do the exercise again. This time you're going to leave your health out of it. What's on this list that I can change? I want to be a better husband. Okay, great. What does that look like? Put it on the right side. It looks like a date night. Once a month, once a week. What can you do? Doesn't have to be spending money. It means, I don't know, go for a walk and hold her hand. It means don't have your phone at the kitchen table. It means when someone's talking to you, put it down and look them in the eye. It means cuddle with her. Because I think it's somewhere of 90%, women need non-sexual touching 90% of the time before they can be sexually in it with you. So it's okay, what am I doing there? Okay, well, now if you're good with that and you feel like you've worked on that enough and your communication has improved with your wife, we go back to the list. What's next? And we start going down systematically. But you got to get it out of the ether up here and you got to start pulling it down, okay, into digestible pieces. Because when you write it down, it's now in front of you and you can visually see, and that helps you understand what you need to focus on. But if I sit here and go, I have this to do today, this to do today, this to do today. What was that thing I had to do? Oh, I missed that because I didn't have an alarm. These are the small things, right? So it always starts with, and this is my personal opinion, how much are you sleeping? Sleep is everything. We know that you can break a human in 72 hours if they don't have the right amount of sleep. We've experimented with that and we know that. Are you drinking enough water? Are you constantly drinking caffeine so you're not sleeping? Are you always drinking alcohol on the weekends and you feel inflamed and like shit and then you spend a bunch of money you didn't really want to spend? So you need to look at the small digestible pieces, because the only way that you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. You need to stop trying to eat the whole thing at once. You're never going to win. And that's how you're going to fall off. And you're going to say, well, I failed and I can't do it. And then you're going to start going down this nihilistic negative mindset. Start with one thing, focus on that, give it time to actually reset. We know it takes like 12 weeks to break a habit. So say for 12 weeks, I'm focusing on my health and nothing else. My wife needs me. She knows I'm there, but she sees me trying. Most of the time, people just need to see you showing up. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do it right. You don't have to do it in a way that the internet tells you, but you just have to start. And it starts by sitting down and being brutally honest with yourself. Where have I fallen off? How could I do better? What does that look like? How do we move forward?
You know what, mate? I think that is a great place to wrap up, because if this has been hitting anyone and they're agreeing, then I think that this is now a good time to put the phone away, get the notebook, get a piece of paper, whatever it is, and get to that. So, Kelsi, thanks so much for coming on today, mate. Hopefully people are fired up, they're ready to go. And like I said, I think you hit the nail on the head there with that. So if anyone listening wants to go and get into that, then do so now and fucking stick with it. Do you have anything else, any final words, mate, before we wrap up?
Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody like a coach for help. We're not meant to do this life on our own. We're not meant to do it as individuals. We're meant to do it as community. We sometimes need people to come and show us the path. And ultimately, if you look at anybody who's done anything great in this world, they're not devoid of mentors and leadership and coaches. They're full of them. Reach out to people, ask them for some of their time. I guarantee they'll give it to you. But the biggest and best thing you can do is just reach out and ask for help. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do, but I do promise you it is the thing that will change your life. So I guess that would be it, Jazz.
Kelsi, thanks so much for coming on, mate. Cheers. Guys, thanks for listening to today's podcast. Kelsi, thanks for coming on, mate. Always a pleasure. And guys, you know the deal. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. Preferably a different one than you shared the last episode with. And if you haven't got that many friends, then go out and meet new ones and expand your circle and then move us into that circle. I also want to say a big thank you to Hamilton Gold for supporting today's podcast. And as you guys may or may not know, I have a book out, a new book. It's called D-Day, The Unheard Tapes. It's available on Amazon. If you're listening on Spotify right now and you've got Spotify Premium, you can head straight over and listen to the audio book. It's included in your premium membership. So you don't have to fork over any money for it. You can just go and start listening right now. Make sure you check out Kelsi's podcast, Brass and Unity. Make sure you check out her businesses, everything like that. All linked down in the show notes. And guys, thank you so much for being here. We'll be back with another episode soon. So I'll catch you next time, and we love you. Bye.